Welcome to Nevertheless Podcast with Bidemi Mark-Mordi, a show dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Today, you would learn how to discover your essence and live more powerfully.
Hello there. You're welcome to the Nevertheless Show. My name is John Namaka and it's a new month and we have something amazing for you. And of course, BMM is in the studio and our theme for this month is Simplify.
Hi, John. It's good to have you on the show again today.
Yeah.
Hello, viewers. Welcome to Nevertheless, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. My name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi, aka BMM. And yes, today we're starting a brand new series, and our series is named Simplify. In Simplifying, we're looking to unclutter our lives for greatness. In the line of my work, especially in the last couple of months, I've heard a number of expressions repeatedly from different people. Words like, or expressions like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I am overwhelmed. And this has become like consistently, repeatedly, different people for different reasons. Tired, exhausted, overwhelmed. Some people are tired and exhausted and overwhelmed because of the economic crisis, quote and unquote, that they have had to face. Others are overwhelmed and exhausted and tired because they've lost loved ones. Others because their life is they feel like their lives are standing still and they're wondering, how do we continue to live the way we live? In a nutshell, the point I'm making is the old, the young, male, female, executives, young students. I'm hearing that expression consistently. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed. Now, honestly, if this were maybe in November of a month, it wouldn't have been much of a concern for me. Right. I'm concerned because in this year, we've only done 2 months.
Right.
And people are exhausted, they're tired, and they're overwhelmed. And that's why I started to think about what can we do to make life maybe a bit easy. And what occurred to me was for us to take a look at how to unclutter our lives so that we're efficient and we can achieve greatness regardless of what else is shifting in our lives. And that's why we're having this conversation today. So simplify simply means to make something easier. To make it easier, to make it maybe a less complicated. And, when I sit with these people that I have spoken to, even when I don't get to sit with them, maybe we just have passing conversations. The thread that runs through all of them is that some part of their lives have become complicated. Something has happened that has complicated their outlook of life. And because of that, they feel overwhelmed, they feel tired, and they feel exhausted. And so today, and through this month, we want to begin to look at how to simplify our lives. There was a time that we thought that the more complicated your life is, the better it is. But I have found that as someone who does a ton of things, I am consistently on the go to do things. I learned maybe not too long ago, but at least in the last 5 years, I learned that the easiest way for me to continue to be productive is to unclutter my life. What that means is I'm taking out all the things that are not necessary. I'm taking away all the things that are, they may be necessary, but they're not important. I'm doing my best to discern and decide between what is urgent and what isn't urgent. And as I just begin to collapse all of those things, what I'm finding is that life is a lot more easier and simpler for me. It's not simpler because I make more money. Let's be clear. It's because sometimes some of these people I've spoken about is like, oh, maybe if I made more money, maybe I won't be this exhausted or overwhelmed because the bills are tugging at them from every angle. And that's why they think that, if they made more money, then perhaps life will be easier. And yes, that's one way you can look at it. But what I have learned is if you make more money and you still don't declutter your life so that you can create room, very soon what looks like you have made more money and you have been able to bridge the gap between where you are and what is required, that gap will soon be overextended again. And you'll find yourself right where you were before. Do you see that? So this particular series for me is I'm listening to the conversations that are being heard around me or had around me, and I'm saying to myself, people need to step away. You need to step away from the things you can't do. You need to reorder your life in a way that the priorities are right. And you need to be able to determine what needs to be done, what shouldn't be done, when you need to say no, and when you can roll with the punches. I think that decluttering or simplifying our lives is something that everyone, every leaderpreneur, everyone who would make a difference, I think is something that we need to look at. Now, if you ask me where do you start from, I would say start with your mind. Start with your mind. What I have learned, and I know as a matter of fact, is that your life follows where your mind goes. Wherever your mind goes, your life follows. So the Bible says it like this: as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. So if your mind is broken in many places, or you feel like, oh, this overwhelm gets to you to the point that your mind is bogged down by worry, your life will begin to get bogged down in all the different spokes of your life. So as far as I'm concerned, if you want to get your life together, you need to learn how to get your mind together. And that's the conversation we're having this week. How do I declutter or unclutter my mind so that my mind primes my body for the right action and for efficiency and ultimately for greatness? Does that make sense? Do you have a question for me?
So I wanted to ask a question. You know, you said something as we begin to go, where do these, I'm looking at my own life. My life started out simple.
Yes, and now you're overwhelmed.
So where is it that it subconsciously comes in, or it comes from somewhere, or is it external factors? What are those things that make us get to this point?
Actually, is a combination of many things. It's a combination of the facts and the realities of your life. Because truthfully, look at it. This morning I was saying something somewhere. I think I was teaching and I said that I bought 4 fingers of plantain. This is Nigeria for 2,000 naira. 4 tiny fingers of plantain for 2,000 naira. Everybody will say to you, is the exchange rate. But what I know is that nobody imports plantain.
Yes.
But I bought 4 fingers of plantain. Only one person, and that's someone who is not determined to eat a healthy portion. 4 tiny fingers of plantain. Now think about it carefully. If my entire family were here, that before we would have spent 3,000 naira to buy plantain, and that's myself, my husband, and my children will eat it. Now I made plantain for my husband only yesterday, and I spent 2,000 when as a family would have spent 3,000 naira.
Wow.
Now, if I allowed that to begin to order how my mind works, I would have gone to bed that last night saying to myself, they are coming to get me. Oh my God, my money may not be enough. Do you see it?
Yes.
So it's not that there are no reasons to be overwhelmed. It's not that there are no things that you think about and all you want to do is give up. But the question is that who you are? And do those things have the capacity to truly break you down? If you take the time and you look at yourself, don't you think you have the capacity to deal with what is coming at you? And if you don't have that capacity, is there no other person to lean on? Don't you have a relationship with God in our own case to lean on God, even though things are hard? So you have that. And then sometimes, it really didn't bother me because I didn't want to eat plantain. The only reason I sent 2,000 to buy plantain was because I had a bunch of plantain, and because we didn't eat it, it had gone soggy. And I said I didn't want to buy more so that doesn't go bad as well. Okay. So I bought 2,000. So when they brought it, I just prepared it for my husband and I went to bed. Do you get it?
Yes.
But that's me. your question to me is, where do these things come from that end up in overwhelm? If I were in a gathering and that plantain came, and that became the subject of conversation, you will hear many theories. And our body, I've said this to us before on this show, that your pause take in stuff. So just sitting in a gathering of people where they begin to analyze, how bad things are, or how they are going to become worse, or how woe is us, and all of that. If you're someone who hasn't built a parameter to guard your mind,
something to guide your mind,
what's going to happen is, by the time you wake up this morning, you'll be sad, you'll be depressed automatically, you'll be overwhelmed, you'll be exhausted, you'll be tired. So these things, some of them are experiences, are triggered by experiences. Some of them are triggered by conversations that people have around us. For those of you who swear by the news, some of them are news items you listen to. I don't listen to the news. The way I figure that when it comes to news is that if it is truly important, I will know. So all the other many pieces of negative news you guys are imbibing, I'm not doing that. And that's one of the parameters we need to look at in decluttering today. But the point is that these things come from different places. They come from different places. Something as simple as a work task that you tried to resolve, and it's taking you days and you couldn't resolve, and somehow you had a gap, you didn't know who to ask how to do it. That overwhelm, if you internalize it enough, can become the reason why you're tired, you're exhausted, and you're feeling like, I can't go on anymore. We just had a case this morning. When we came this morning, I was saying to Eniola that, we need to resolve something with YouTube. And it looks like, we didn't know what to do. If I allowed myself to focus on the problem, rather than begin to say, what are the solutions we could find, we would not know that, let's reach out to the help center. And in just one chat, she's been able to at least up to 75%, she's resolved that issue. Do you see that? So it's all around us. But it's not peculiar to us in this season. It's life. It's life. In the case of Nigeria, even if we exchange 1 naira for $1, we will still have things. You will still hear conversations around, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed. If it's not this, it will be that thing. So we need to know that the way life is set up, because of the general configuration of things always break down, these things will come. And that's why it is your responsibility and my responsibility to guard my mind so that I am careful what has access into me. Does that make sense to you?
It makes a lot of sense. So what I'm able to gather from this is that irrespective of what I do, these things will definitely come.
Yes.
The onus is now on me to respond the right way.
Yes.
So my response is what really determines if I get exhausted.
Exactly. Exactly. Because someone says, I've seen people whose blood pressure have risen. And they've never seen a dollar note before. But the way it's been amplified, dollar. They've had their blood pressure too. I was speaking to someone, I think a few days ago, and her body has actually started to shut down. And she doesn't even live in Nigeria. Do you see it? So it's your response that determines
what happens.
Yes. Because there are other people that were like, so what? And you're wondering, we say to them they are nonchalant. They have developed what I call coping mechanisms. When we think about coping mechanisms, a lot of people think that coping mechanisms are all bad. So we say, when you hear the expression coping mechanism, you think, that's what people do so that they do not face reality. No. Coping mechanisms for me are the things that I do so that the things that are supposed to maybe knock me down, they don't have that access or force enough to knock me down. Even this morning, I've exchanged conversation with someone where, something has happened and she's, she sends a message. She says, look, I'm disintegrating. I know it shouldn't get to me, but it gets to me. Sometimes I'm fine, other times I'm not fine. I really don't know what to do. And I said, that's because you have not defined it in your mind, what your coping mechanisms would be. So you need to know what your coping mechanisms will be, because if you know them and they become a science to you, you will find that you are less and less and less overwhelmed by what is happening around you. Do you see that?
Yes, it makes
okay. We've been told that we need to go on a break. We'll soon be back, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation about the mind. We haven't even really gotten into it, but it's still the Nevertheless show. Don't go away. God bless you.
Are you seeking to clarify your purpose and profit from it? Then, get into the Purpose University this year. A 10-week e-course for people of faith who seek to clarify their purpose and profit from it. The DNA of purpose has been put together to help you understand what purpose is about and discover what your journey of purpose might look like. Register today at yourpurposeu.org, where Bidemi Mark-Mordi will hold your hands to discover your purpose and live powerfully.
In a world filled with many fears and discouragement, life often becomes a burden. For those who know the way, life is just simple. Do not worry, you're not alone on this life's journey, as Bidemi Mark-Mordi shares powerful insights and principles from her everyday work and life experiences in her book, Nevertheless. Nevertheless is a book designed to encourage and equip you to face life with courage, hope, and determination. Get a copy of Nevertheless and other books written by Bidemi Mark-Mordi, like The Wisdom of the Seed, Honor, The Theology of Work, and so much more from a bookstore nearby, or call 080-905-63555, or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order. I guarantee you will make it. Nevertheless.
You're welcome back to the Nevertheless show. I know it's been an amazing time. Just before we went on the break, we were talking about how to declutter the mind. And I'd like to ask, how do we really begin this journey of decluttering our mind?
Okay, so welcome back. John, because we have agreed, at least we've agreed to an extent, that the problem begins with the mind.
Yes.
The things we take in, the things we allow to percolate in our minds. So your first step is identify where the problem starts from. And we have agreed that the problem starts with the mind. Yes. So that's where we're going to go to. The first thing for me in decluttering your mind is to recognize that you must be intentional about the parameters of your mind. You know what? Be very intentional about what you expose yourself to. But before we get to that exposure part, I just want you to know it pays, or you need to recognize that your life goes the way of your mind and your thoughts. Okay? Yes. So once we agree, or you have determined or settled it that your life will follow your mind, then for me, the first thing is, I like to call them the first and the last fives. The first 5 minutes of my day and the last 5 minutes of my day. Okay. For me, they're very critical. First 5 minutes of my day, when I open my eyes and I come to consciousness, what am I saying? Or what do I say? Or what are the first thoughts that I allow into your mind? For me, it's classic, because I don't know whether it happens that way with other people, but I find that I don't wake up at once. So I wake up in phases, gradually. So at about past 2, I get up and I go into the bathroom and I come back and I lay down again. But that's leading to my wake up time, that is 3 a.m. So somewhere between 2:30 a.m. and 3 a.m., I am conscious. My eyes are not open, but I'm conscious. And I begin to talk to myself, or I talk to God. And I usually, those first 5 minutes of consciousness, I usually use them to say thank you. I use them to say, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you for this you did yesterday. Thank you for this that I experienced. Thank you for the gift of another day. Oh, Lord, it is established that I'm awake. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My first 5 minutes.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. My last 5 minutes, maybe more than 5 minutes, but the last waking minutes that I have every day, I do a mental run through my day. Because whatever might have upset me during the day, before I fall asleep, I need to deal with it.
Okay.
So I need to say to myself, oh, my driver didn't behave right today. Well, silly boy, you will do that once in a while. But I need to quickly just bring myself back to wholeness. I need to, whatever it is that had riled me, shaken me, some cases I can't resolve them. But before I fall asleep, I'll say, Lord, I'm handing this to you. It's too hard for me for the day. It really got to me, but I'm going to bed, so I'm going to leave it for you to do. Your first 5 and your last 5. Okay. Your first, few minutes of waking up and your last few minutes before you fall asleep each day. Make sure that you start with gratitude and make sure you close with a decluttering, a casting down of anything that may, because I find that when I don't do that, in my sleep, I continue to think about all those things. So it has become, yes. We always think, oh, when I fall asleep, I fall asleep. But I don't know whether you know that those things, some people have nightmares because of that. So before I fall asleep, I bring my mind to a resolution. And the resolution is, okay, this didn't work well, tomorrow is another day. Oh, I was supposed to make this payment. Oh, where I didn't remember to make the payment. I have a notepad by my bed. So I write, make this payment tomorrow. Whatever it is that has the capacity to get me unsettled during the night, I'll deal with it quickly. So just to resolve and reach a decision before I fall asleep, I'll deal with that tomorrow. I'll call that person tomorrow, or I've forgiven this person. All of that before I fall asleep. And someone is like, that's too much work. It's not hard. If it becomes a pattern for you, or a habit for you, sometimes I don't need to write anything. I just go through it in my mind, and that is done.
So for someone who wants to start a habit like this, what are the things that you advise that they put in place? Should they set an alarm?
Definitely I have an alarm. Okay. What I have learned about alarms, because my alarm goes off at 3 a.m. every day. But what I've learned is if you're someone who consistently follows your alarm, after a while, your body clock it won't wake you up at your alarm time. My own body clock gives me a minimum of 30 minutes. So 30 minutes before my alarm goes off. And I also have a rule. If my alarm doesn't go off, I don't get up. So because if I get up, I get into activity. But those moments before the alarm goes off, I already know my alarm is about to go off. That's when I use to do this, my first few minutes of the day, 5 minutes of gratitude. And then at night, I don't set an alarm, but I have a time I go to bed. If it's later than that time, I will be sleepy. I've trained myself over the years. So when I come to bed every day, I go to bed, I'm lying on my bed as much as is possible, 7 p.m., 7:30. So in that place, I'm winding down. And to wind down these days means I won't touch my phone. I will not touch my phone. It'll be beside me, but I will not touch my phone. My TV will be on. This is for me. Sometimes I'm not even watching whatever because I put it on and it's one Asiatic movie or something. I don't understand the language. So it's not because I want to watch. But the noise has a way of calming me down.
White noise.
It's just, it just keeps going on and on and on. And my husband, I've used this expression before. He says to me that the TV watches me ultimately. Because after a while, but thank God for smart TVs, it will now ask you, are you still there? Are you still awake? I figured that if I don't answer for a while, it shuts down because every night, eventually, when I wake up, I see that the TV goes off. But I have a routine in going to sleep. We think that because we grew up and we're older, that we ought not to have a routine. When we're babies or when we nurse our own babies, we have a whole ceremony for getting our children to sleep.
Yes.
It would help you if you have a ceremony to go to bed with. If there is a kind of pillowcase that helps you to sleep, get it. I don't like to sleep with lights. So lights all around me go dead at 7:45 if I want to really sleep. I shut down all the lights. If you walk into my room, the only light that you will see, am I lying, is my TV light. Every other light is shut down. So the same way when you were a child or when you were raising your own children, you do all the ceremony to bring the child to sleep. Have a whole ceremony for yourself. After all, you are God's child.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter whether you are 70, you're God's child. Find a way to pamper yourself or to get yourself to sleep.
Be intentional about
yes,
taking care of yourself.
intentional. That's the word. So I do that, and then that's to answer your question. So I begin with gratitude, and I end with bringing all my unresolved issues to a resolution. And a resolution doesn't necessarily mean that you have sorted it out. No, sometimes it just means you mentally tell yourself, I will do it with it on Wednesday.
Okay.
Tomorrow is Tuesday, I'm too busy, I can't deal with it. I will deal with it on Wednesday. When you do that, your body relaxes, your mind relaxes, because your mind now knows that the next time we will engage with this is on Wednesday. We have a plan to deal with it. The second one is to do an audit. When I say do an audit, I'm asking you, I want you to, take time, and because we don't do mind audits enough. Okay. If I find myself worrying, I want to know why I worry. So if you find out why you worry, sometimes I'm totally fine, and in the course of a conversation, someone says something, and 30 minutes later, I find myself becoming broody or morose. My job is to do the trace. When did this get activated in my mind? And if I'm able to trace it, then I need to deal with it. Do you understand it? So do a mind audit. What are the things that get you to the place where you find yourself, in a frenzy, and you are finding yourself depleted? What are the things that make you agitated? What kinds of conversation? Sometimes it's not a particular kind of conversation, it's a particular kind of person. You find that this particular person, if you engage with them before 10 a.m., your day is spoilt. Then you shouldn't be taking their calls until 5 p.m. I'm not joking. Because this thing we talk about, mental health, it's not that up in the rafters. When we live intentionally, we can deal with it. Do you understand it? So do a mind audit and ask yourself, what are the things that have the capacity to get me agitated, to move me from the place of I'm resting in God to the place of worry? Once you find that thing, then you need to have a plan again on how to deal with it. So if it's a person, and every time they call me, there are people that when they call you, the first thing they say to you is, you don't forget your brother. When was the last time you spoke to me? I don't want to talk to you. At the top of my day, I don't want to talk to someone who starts a conversation with an accusation. No. So I said to you, if you're calling me, I'll say, send me a text. Because if I respond to you, you're going to attack me. And I really don't want that, because I don't want that to sully my day or to make my day less than it ought to be. So do that audit and put those things down. Write them down or make a mental note of them and say, okay, Eniola makes me lose my mind. So I'm not going to be talking to Eniola before 6 p.m. every day, because I'm nearer my resolution time before I go to bed. So I won't talk to her unless it is absolutely necessary. Do you see it?
Yes.
So do that so that you know what it is that gets you there. That's number 2.
So I wanted to ask, so I have asked some people sometimes, like maybe they're in a foul mood, you're not okay, and you're like, what really is happening? And they don't seem to be able to know why. And even when you say, okay, could you maybe think back? they themselves are unable to trace. So such people who
No, it's because they've not trained themselves to do so.
Okay.
Because sometimes these things really are not in your face. They are subtle.
Okay.
But because I'm a believer and you're a believer, you can also say, Holy Spirit, show me.
Please help me.
Holy Spirit, show me. And sometimes it's not even anything bad. It's you're just in a group of people and they were all having conversations about how they have bought their tickets to go for summer, about how their child has made it a first class, about this and that. And you're genuinely happy for them. You are not envious. But now, before you know what is happening, something is asking you, especially if you have a child who is struggling, especially if you have a desire to go on holiday and you haven't been able to figure out how to even get a visa, let alone buy your ticket. After a while, you become quiet. Even within the group, as the conversation is going on, you become quiet. And when you eventually leave, you are contemplative because you are saying to yourself, what was wrong with me? Or what's wrong with me? Why am I not able to share as these people are sharing? Why are these things happening to them and they're not happening to me? Do you understand that? Yeah. So it is the reason why they don't mean to. It's not like they're sharing so that they can make you feel bad. But that's why I'm saying that being quiet and maybe overly optimistic that people can just, get it at once. But if you do that work of asking yourself this audit of the mind, you'll find yourself ultimately that you can tell the kind of things that get you in those moods, yes, that trigger you. But because of time, another one is when you find out what it is, you need to move yourself from worry to rest or faith. Move yourself from worry to faith or to rest. For me, it's not any big deal. It's not that I find a reason or I find a solution to what it is that, if I couldn't buy tickets, I had not been able to buy tickets, my rest doesn't come from I'm now able to buy tickets. So I have 3 words. I call them my worry phrase or my busting the worry phrase. My 3 words for busting the worry phrase is Jesus is Lord. That's my phrase, or the sentence is my anti-worry sentence. Jesus is Lord. It is me reminding myself that my journey does not terminate here. It is me reminding myself that someone else has my back. It is me reminding myself that be that as it may, there is hope for me because Jesus is my hope. Do you get it? So my anti-worry phrase is Jesus is Lord, no matter what. Jesus is Lord, Jesus is Lord, Jesus is Lord. And sometimes I can say it for a long time. And when I'm truly worried, and I don't have, I don't feel like, I have arrived there in my mind where I can say Jesus is Lord. I say, God, help me. God help me. But all of this brings me to my next point, which is the fact that I'm leaning on someone bigger. I'm leaning on someone greater. I'm leaning on someone higher. This is my reality, but I'm leaning on you. Do you see that? And then finally, because of time for me, sanitize your mental space. How do you do that? I've talked to you about your first 5 and your last 5. I've talked to you about determining what causes your worry. I've talked about reframing worry with approach or replacing worry with rest or with faith. I've talked to you about your worry busting phrase and stuff like that or sentence. The next one is sanitize your mental space. There's a concept known as brain dumping.
Okay.
It's a scientific concept, actually. Brain dumping just means that you go everywhere with a sheet of paper or something. So when you find yourself in that mental space, you want to write down everything you are feeling or everything you are thinking. Number 1, my clothes are not many, or I don't have enough clothes. Number 2, my mother did not call me. Number 3, my colleague was sarcastic to me this morning. Number 4, my dress tore on my way to work. Number 5, I don't have enough money to replace the dress. Number 6, I really would like to eat jollof rice, but what I have is rice and stew. Number 7, what am I doing? Everything that has the potential to make me lose my mind, I'm writing it down. It's called brain dumping. Because what you do with your brain dump is when you have put it all down, your mind will be clear. Then you can come back and say, I don't have enough clothes. There are more than 4 is what I would respond to that one, because I'll draw a line. There are more than 4. What that means, there are more than 4 for me is a reference to the day when all I had were 4 outfits. So even if I don't have in my mind enough today, I've done a mental count. I have more than 4. It signifies progress. Number 2, my mother did not call me. Mother is terrible with her phones anyway. Do you see it? Mother is terrible with her phones. I'll call her tomorrow. My colleague was sarcastic. He's not a nice person. My dress store. I'm not going to say what I wrote. I don't have money to replace the dress. Your salary is coming. Can you see the smile on my face?
Yeah.
I want to eat jollof rice. I only have fried rice. This is easily fixed. Mix the rice and stew together.
And get jollof rice.
And get jollof rice. Can you see it? Brain dumping. What brain dumping does is it takes concepts that we initially think are very heavy and trivializes them for us.
Yes. It gives an answer to all those different strings of worries in our head.
Yes.
It looks like nothing.
Yes. At the end of the day, it's another way of resolving the things that are in front of you so that you can make room to move on the next time. Do you see that?
Yes.
So, what have we looked at today?
We've looked at how to simplify our thoughts. First of all, we talked about knowing that our lives move in the direction of our
minds. Yes.
Right. Then we went to talk about the first 5 minutes of our day and the final 5 minutes, and that's even telling me this brain dumping thing. I'm thinking for myself. Maybe I can even use it for the last 5 minutes.
It works. Yes, it works.
Just list out these things that I feel they are bugging my mind or they're stressing me out, and then begin to put action plans in place, responses to them.
Yes.
And then we also went on to talk about how that we need to do an audit of our thoughts.
Yes.
An audit of our
and
mind.
distill our own coping mechanisms.
Yes.
I talked to you about Jesus is Lord and God help me.
God help me.
God help me. To recognize that all of your life is beyond you. Because when it becomes really overwhelming, where do you go?
That's true.
Do you see it? So there's someone bigger than me and bigger than my situation. Like a child running to its father, that's where I will go. Once you do that, it may not automatically make you lighter and more excited, but over time, you'll find that it begins to help your perspective and it begins to affect how you do. Yes.
It's been mind decluttering for me.
Yes.
Right. It's been so transformational. I believe this is what everybody should be listening to right now, given, like you have said, how the economy might be looking at, how things may be getting at us very easily.
Yes.
It's just the beginning.
Yes, and we're going to be readable and all of that.
Yes, I feel this is what people should be listening to. So, hey, if you're listening to us on any of our platforms, you want to get in touch with the speaker, or you have a question, you can put it in the comment section somewhere, or you can send us a DM. Anyhow, we will do well to get to you.
Yes, and please remember to follow us on social media. My handles are Bidemi Mark-Mordi. You'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Twitter, YouTube. Yes. And of course, wherever you find podcasts, you'll find my podcast there. Nevertheless, with Bidemi Mark-Mordi, Spotify, and the rest. So make sure you keep a date with us next week as we continue the conversation about simplifying our lives so that we can continue to walk in greatness. Remember that when you discover your purpose, then you can live powerful lives We'll see you next week. John?
Yes, we'll see
God
you
bless
next
you.
week. Thank
God
you.
bless you.
bless
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Nevertheless. For more information and resources, call 080-90563-555 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimark.com. Don't forget, discovering your purpose helps you live more powerfully.